on the amount of genius level in Denmark here. Before we hit the last distribution of today, I think you have gotten the picture now also from last time. We have many of those distributions in R. We have these three guys that we've just met, and this guy we'll meet in 5 minutes from now. We have density functions. We actually don't use the density versions of the quantitative, of the continuous ones a lot, apart from plotting to make nice plots, and you'll see them used there to show the density curves. What we use a lot is the actual probability function, the distribution function, and also the inverse. So this is like inverse of P, right? It's also f minus first of x. It's mathematically exactly the inverse function, actually, of the P function. We just tried it, and we're gonna get back to it. And then we're also going to, for the fun of it first, and for the more hardcore computation of it later, we're going to use this random number facility that the computer so nicely is giving to us, giving us the opportunity to do really, really complicated computations, or at least things that would be very mathematically challenging. That becomes very easy to us in a couple of weeks from now, because we can just use brute force computer power rather than mathematical skill. That's nice. So we should, as a part of this story, let's go to here, my little quiz. How many geniuses do we have? Let's see. Now I'm panicking. %50 got the answer correctly. That's not too bad. 1 out of 2 ain't bad. No, that's not the right quote. Should we have a look? I think I prepared it. How many high geniuses in Denmark? Following our school teacher example, it's exactly the same thing. What I do is I take the probability of being above 165 using the right mean and the right standard deviation. So I call it 115. And then I multiply by sort of my best sort of choice of how many people are we in Denmark. I put it at 5.6 mil. It might not be quite true, but that's the number I used. And I hopefully have the amount of numbers, zeros, correctly. Can you see that? This is the probability of falling above 165 if I sample people from Denmark at random. The probability that he will have an IQ of above 165 is 0.000007. How many does that add up to out of 5.6 mil? Approximately 40. Right? So that's the way to answer the question. What about my test question? 62% got those correct, and that was actually with more than a single correct answer. Let's just see, should we look at the correct answer here? The distribution is symmetric around the mean. Yes, it is. The distribution, that is a normal distribution, is symmetric around the standard deviation. Rubbish. The probability of x being larger than the mean is those 2.5%. Rubbish. The probability of being above the mean is, of course, the mean is in the middle, even though I didn't manage quite to draw it nicely. It's 50%. So what is the median of a standard, of a normal distribution? What is the 50% quantile of a normal distribution? It's the same as the mean for the normal. So when distributions are symmetric, the median and the mean is the same thing. When they're not, it's not the same. That's what I also said 2 weeks ago, but without talking about distributions as such. Okay, the probability that x, the random variable, equals the mean is 1. That would not be a pretty intelligent way to approach the world if we thought that was the correct thing. So, thank you for that. Many of you got it correctly, and you have one correct answer at the final exam just by this. So, let's move on. We need a couple of more things. We have one more distribution coming up, a nice